I'm Megan.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Erica.
And this is the Her Podcast. It's a solo episode today, friends. CJ and I are actually in the hot seat, and we are chatting about the shifts and changes that we have both been making, managing our anxiety, what things we have been adding to our daily routines, and toolboxes that have made big differences for us lately. We're getting open and honest about how the changes that we have made have been impacting us. We are covering things that are brand new to me. I learned so much from CJ during this episode too. We're talking about closing a stress cycle, what that looks like, how to do it. We're talking about how to get out of anxiety when we're stuck in the middle and how to reach in and really use the tools out of our toolboxes and where to start. We really hope that you guys enjoy this episode. And as always, please let us know if you have any great takeaways.
Okay, so on my social media, I kind of blasted Nick a little bit because I did a food sensitivity test a little while ago and found out like all these foods I should be avoiding, and like whatever, right? It's been like a few weeks now, and so the other day, Nick, I think he was trying to be encouraging, but he was like, "Oh, I've like really noticed like your face isn't as puffy," and I was like, "Oh, okay, like that's good." He's like, "Yeah, like," and he does not amount in many words, so he uses hands actions. So if you're not watching, you should watch on YouTube. He goes like here, and I was like, "Oh yeah," and he's like, and you could tell he didn't want to do it, but he was like here, like here, and I was like my belly, and he's like, "Yeah, like I noticed the other day when you were walking." He's like, "It wasn't as," and I was like, jiggly, and he was like, like you could tell he felt bad, but he was also, I think he was trying to be encouraging. I think he was trying to be like, clearly the food is bothering you, but I didn't notice it until yesterday when I got in the shower and I grabbed my boobies and they felt smaller, and I was like telling Nick about that, and I was like, there's so many lymph nodes in there and whatnot, and like CJ always tells us how much our body holds.
Well, inflammation. Yeah. There's just so much inflammation that you can have in your body. So like when you are not, whatever your sensitivities are, right, aren't being stirred up, then your inflammation can go down, which is like your puffiness, your bloating.
And one of which yours is dairy, which is like hugely inflaming. Did I say
inflammatory?
Thank you.
Well, and I wonder if I go full. So the thing I'm finding the hardest part is dairy and baking. Like, because
you're not supposed to even have any.
Sometimes, so one of our friends, their little girl has a dairy allergy, and for the longest time, she could actually eat dairy once it was like cooked. Like she could have like a muffin because the protein, like it changes, right?
Yes.
The formate. I don't know if that's the case with me. I'm hoping it is, but I'm wondering if I like went hardcore no dairy, like, which I have basically, but I'm constantly sort of stuffy, and I'm kind of wondering if.
Are you not now?
No, like not yet, but it could take some time. I wonder if this'll.
A lot of allergies.
Go down.
Especially like milk can bring up a lot of allergies. Absolutely. It would be really interesting to see.
And it's I'm not going to get this right, but it like can produce more mucus.
Yes.
Right. So that's why we did it, because Theo is always sick.
Yeah.
So we've actually for a while wondered. So him and I are doing this together, but we have different things. But I'm basically like dairy and then like all nuts. Yeah. Anyways, that was my tangent for. That's not what we're talking about today, but it was just like a sidebar because I blasted my husband on social media, and he doesn't have social media, so he can't defend himself. So
we love a good blasting.
Sorry,
oh no,
Nick.
That was probably bad.
Except he'll listen to this, and now he'll know.
He'll know. Ooh. He'll be like, "You did what?"
Nick, you're a very kind man.
Yes. Let me go out by myself yesterday. No, today we're talking about anxiety, which, if you've been following us since the beginning, you will be like, wait, didn't these ladies do an episode on this earlier in the year? And we did, but we know that there are just so many changes and so many ebbs and flows with everything in life, including mental health and the things that we experience daily. And Megan and CJ have some updates for us. So I'll let CJ kind of explain why we decided to do this episode, and then we'll just kick it off.
Love it.
Yeah, basically Megan and I were talking one day, like on the phone, and talking about things and stuff that we were doing and anxiety and whatever. And then all of a sudden it was like,
our monthly anxiety meeting. CJ and I
Our
have these,
monthly
Erica. We
pillow holding.
don't make you listen. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a real gratitude towards her.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
She's
She'd
like,
be
enough of this.
Get out of here, you two. No, right? And we were
Yeah.
like talking and we're about all the things that were helping us. And I was like, oh my gosh, we should do an updated episode that talks about this, because mental health, anxiety, depression, the gamut of all of those things that runs in that sort of wheelhouse, you know, like Erica sort of alluded to, ebb and flow.
Yep.
Right? They come up, they come down. Obviously, you and I have been diagnosed with anxiety for a really long time. And I think that we are definitely still in a very active season, or I guess I would say I am, but I think you are too,
Yes.
of just like always trying to learn, better ourselves, figure it out, understand. The thing that I'm loving, and I don't know if this is like kicking it off, but I'm just loving like how much research is coming out and like actual like talking about it. I mean, there's one thing, and you say this all the time, Megan, like a shared experience, right? Like really resonates with people. And so I think it's important that people talk about their experience with whatever it might be, anxiety being one of them, or mental health. But the other piece that's been really interesting for me is just, like the research that's coming out that's actually like, okay, like legitimizing it and being like, this is how you can actually start to help it, right? Compared to being like, okay, here's my story, and I'm sort of just like trying things and throwing spaghetti at the fridge and seeing what sticks, which we've both done.
Totally. On and off over the years. And I feel like to a certain degree, I'm still throwing a little spaghetti, but most of it's sticking.
Yeah,
I guess, right? And there's more tangible things. And I think the conversation started with, if you've listened to some of these episodes, you may know I drink a lot of coffee, and the girls were like, I don't know how you drink so much coffee with your anxiety. And then I, as in my true fashion, sat with that for a little while before I acted on it.
How long was a little while?
A few months for sure, possibly 6
No quick
to
changes
8.
over there.
No, I like to play this slow. I like to play it slow and long, guys.
Erica and I are always just like light switch on off.
And they're like,
Yes,
Megan's
no.
over there on her journey.
Just like waltzing
Hold
through
your
the
breath.
flowers, you know?
I think the thing is, it's like, it's not like, it's like, just don't drink so much coffee. Like, it's not like a life altering, like you need to move from this city. You need to give this, I mean, I get coffee is an addiction, but I'm like, just don't drink so much. Just like
Megan's got to make it a whole journey.
she's like, you guys, she literally was
She like
like,
spiritualizes it.
I do.
after much visualization and coaching, I've only drank 2 cups of coffee today. And we're like, wow.
Erica, you and I would be millionaires if we coached Megan through how long it would take her to get through each.
So true, you
We
guys.
love you, Megan.
If you're like me, you should hire these girls and make them millionaires.
Which everyone's different, and this is the point.
Yes.
But
Yes.
go ahead, tell us about your coffee journey.
So I was on my coffee journey.
Yes.
And a long time ago, probably a year ago, Erica said she switched to decaf in the morning. And I was
After
like,
my husband told me one time, I was like, sounds
Okay.
good.
oh,
Sorry, which I'm still doing that.
I am who I am.
Keep going.
Hey, acceptance is the first step.
Right? And so after some time, I decided to bring the Keurig from the studio that I never use home, because I was like, well, I'm not going to make a whole pot of decaf because Andrew's not going to drink it. And so then I bought the pods, and I started with decaf in the morning, and I've made that switch for like quite some time now. And then I don't drink a coffee usually till I get to work. So there's a few hours in there. And I've noticed a huge difference.
Yeah. You guys, it's life changing.
It is life changing. I'm not getting that crash in the afternoon now, which is like the main reason why I did. But then I also was like, oh, I drink my coffee slower. I actually savor it a little bit more. And I think for me, it was like breaking a ritual, but then knowing like, okay, like, but it's literally just decaf. It's still coffee. So that was kind of the first change that I made. And then I paired that pretty much at the same time. I started taking like athletic greens in the morning, which is just, I mean, it's all over freaking Instagram. It's so good. Just shake it up, drink it in the morning. So I would do that first, and then I drink my decaf, and then I start my water, and then I drink that until I get to work.
But is it lemon water?
It is lemon water with
little Himalayan
electrolytes in there.
Okay.
It's delicious. I actually double up the electrolytes because I drink a huge Stanley. So I don't, anyways, but I make my like tasty water and then I pour my coffee when I get to work. And it's been a real game changer for me to actually really like that little ritual that I've started. And then high protein.
Have you ever wished managing people was like putting together an IKEA cabinet? Challenging, but you were provided with all the instructions and tools to complete the task? Then listen up. If you're looking to take your leadership skills to the next level, we've got something special just for you. Introducing Lead From Here, the brainchild of 3 incredible women, Julia Seguin, Bridget Turner, and Leah Gregg. These ladies are on a mission to revolutionize leadership development. Imagine a world where being a supervisor isn't a daunting task, but more like assembling, like I said, an IKEA cabinet, challenging, yet with clear instructions and tools. Well, Lead From Here is here to make that a reality. On January 26, 2024, in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, they're hosting a one-day practical leadership workshop from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Parktown Hotel. And guess what? Lunch is included. This workshop is designed for supervisors, business owners, entrepreneurs, or anyone working with people who want to tap into their team's talents, reduce performance challenges, and build a cohesive team. You'll learn practical strategies like how to connect with your team, give and receive feedback, build trust, manage change effectively, and leverage your strengths while minimizing biases. Okay, a quick side note. If you know me, CJ, you probably know that I absolutely love personal development. That's precisely why I'm already signed up and will be attending this conference myself. I had the pleasure of meeting with Bridget over Zoom, and I was truly blown away by her thoughtful and insightful advice on business. Lead From Here understands the hustle and bustle of management. They'll help you seamlessly weave leadership into your role because, let's face it, practical leadership is the key to success. This is not your typical leadership program. It's engaging, filled with real-world examples, and offers a chance for genuine connection. So whether you're a new supervisor, a seasoned leader looking to grow, or just someone wanting to add some leadership skills to your toolkit, Lead From Here has you covered. And here's the kicker. Use the discount code HER20 to get 20% off your registration for the Practical Leadership Workshop. Ready to lead with confidence and empathy? Don't miss out on this opportunity. Join Lead From Here at the Practical Leadership Workshop on January 26, 2024 in Saskatoon. For more information and to register, visit their website at leadfromhere.ca. That's lead, L-E-A-D, from F-R-O-M, here, H-E-R-E.ca. And be sure to follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Lead From Here. Unlock your leadership potential with Lead From Here. We'll see you there. Okay, but wait. I think you've hit on a really important piece, that there's going to be some people listening who are like, coffee is maybe feeding my anxiety and not doing me what I want it to do. And the biggest hurdle to get over is that ritual piece.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I just wanted to highlight that and be like, the easiest switch is to go to decaf first, which we've all acknowledged, but then to possibly create a new ritual, right? And to understand that you can create a new ritual around something else and make it fun and bougie and whatever you need it to be to feel like comforting and similar.
Yeah. And I think actually to that point, I would equate that to drinking alcohol to the ritual of that too. Yeah.
Yes.
So creating a new ritual.
And the social norm.
Yes.
So I'm curious, you spoke to obviously not experiencing the crash.
Yes.
Which I know we're going to get people who are like, decaf isn't 100%.
Yeah. Listen.
Fine. It's called baby steps. It took her this long to get here, so back off.
Cheer me on, guys.
Cheer me on. But my question is, how have you seen it impact like your anxiety?
Yeah, I've seen, like, definitely I'm a lot calmer in the mornings. I'm more focused in the mornings, which you would think would be opposite because you're not drinking your coffee or whatever. But that paired with, like, for me, it's a whole bunch of things together that would decrease the anxiety. But that has made a big difference in my mornings for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then we had a pop-up over the weekend and I found myself sipping on my coffee long until the afternoon. And then I was like, put this shit down. I'm going to be up all night. But I find that I don't necessarily want something in the afternoon anymore. Whereas before I was experiencing that crash and I was like, oh, well, maybe I need a little coffee or like a Diet Coke or whatever. We're not going to talk about the Diet Coke. That's a whole other thing. I'm still working on.
I think that will be a couple of years.
Yeah.
I will put money on that.
So then I'm curious when you're having this conversation with Megan, because you've been caffeine free right?
I know. And you know me, I'm really, really bad at timelines, but it's got to be a couple years.
Yeah, like a while now.
Yeah, like I'd say around 2 years.
And so I'm curious on then when you were talking with Megan, like what sparked you to be like, yeah, like these are the changes I'm making or that I've seen have helped me since we like did our last episode.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think you were about to hit on it next, a big one. I think we both have a little list, but like it's protein.
Yep.
Right. And again, we've had like lots of guests on, like I listen to lots of things. Right. And I think that it's coming out, in my opinion, some people may not agree, and that's totally okay. Do what's best for you. But that the importance of protein, right. And especially for like women and especially for health, and like we've been told like eat salad and just like sugary things, and you know, even a lot of these like smoothies that people are making in the morning are just packed full of sugar. And I'm like, yeah, that's not doing a great spike for you either, right? Where you're going to crash in the afternoon. And so I think having high protein intake, which like, again, maybe you and I can, all of us can probably actually touch on this. Like, I think when people think high protein, they're like, great, I just need to go eat a big stick of meat or some steak. And I'm like, I do that as well. But I think that there's many other sources of protein, and ways to get in protein, that are easier, right? Like, again, like Greek yogurt, you guys, is so high.
Lactose-free Greek yogurt.
You know what it's right? And like lactose-free milk, even if you can do that, right? Yes. And like you get so much protein from that too, right? Like cheese, like these things. Or if you're dairy-free, right? Eggs. Yeah. Another fantastic one.
I think that too, like when we had Colin on, and you guys will listen to that episode as well, he talks a lot about, you know, easy forms of protein, because I mean, I like to overcomplicate things sometimes, or we're just kind of like maybe not educated on what has a lot of protein. It takes a Google search, obviously, but like I even then would have yogurt in the morning. I'm a big fan of putting natural peanut butter in my yogurt as well. But then since I found this really high protein granola that I sprinkle on as well. So I'm just like, oh, add a little chia seed, add some pumpkin seeds to it. You can really just like pump up something you're eating anyways and just pump it up full of protein. And it does make a huge difference in the mornings for me too.
Well, I just find you don't get that like that anxiousness that just creeps in, you know, like the other day I accidentally like pushed my quote unquote breakfast, you know, like, or my first meal, like a little later than I wanted to. It just got busy, was like working away, like doing my thing. And then all of a sudden I was like, I could just feel it. And I went and ate protein right away, and I had protein throughout the rest of the day, but it took until the next day for that like buzz of anxiety that you feel inside to wear off. And I actually couldn't like backtrack to be like, okay, I've identified it. Now, if I add in protein now, will it go down? And sometimes I can have it like subside if I catch it quickly. But it's crazy to notice the difference of like taking it first before you even get that inkling of feeling anxious and just sort of getting ahead of it.
I think
preventative.
You just, touched on the difference between like, I'm going to lose the word, but like getting ahead of it and then recouping. Yeah. Because that's a whole other piece of anxiety too.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Recalibrating like after the fact.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think, because you eat high protein too. Yeah. Okay. No.
I'm the worst at eating anything. So
you
don't
just,
ask
Erica,
me
just
any
had been on
journeys to try to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, notoriously women are low on protein.
Yes.
Like it's just like we all are. We don't eat enough. I think women don't actually eat enough.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yep.
Right. And then obviously with my ADHD, it's just like I either overeat or I don't eat at all. Yeah. And so that's just a journey for me that I'm like, because now I'm like dairy free and basically gluten free right now, I'm finding that I'm like, I think what's funny is you speak to like, people think you have to just eat a stick of meat and like, that's what you need. And I'm going to speak to the fact that that's like my easy way. Like, because I'm already overwhelmed with what I should eat, I've actually gone the route of like, I'm going to buy some steak and I'm going to eat a bunch of steak because right now I know that's going to be good for me. And once I get on a good cycle, then I'm willing to look at like, but even what you just said, like I can't have Greek yogurt. Yeah. Like I can't do cottage cheese. I can't do cheese right now. So I'm like, meat or, you know, certain veggies, but I'm like meat for me, I like the path of least resistance.
I think that's a really great point, right? Though.
And so I'm like, I can eat a steak and have my intake of protein for the day. So sounds good.
Because you're taking the overwhelm out of it.
Yeah, I'm taking the overwhelm and I'm taking the like, I know protein is in meat. So I'm going to focus on for sure eating meat during the day. And I really like meat. Like I like meat in the morning. Like what? Okay, really? You're disgusting. She's disgusting.
Megan went there.
I already told you I can't have any nuts right now.
Ba-dum-bum. That was a good setup. Poor Nick.
Last time it was Megan. This time it's Erica.
No, the point that I like to eat protein in the morning.
Yeah.
Like some people would find it very, very hard to eat like bacon in the morning, or I actually will eat leftover steak.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is great. I love it.
Yeah.
Right. So I have taken the approach of path of least resistance, which for me is more meat on my
I think
plate.
that's actually really smart, right? Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple,
Kiss.
stupid.
Right? Simplicity is where it's
Yeah.
at.
And I think that that's a really great actually tip for people who have anxiety and tend to get like overwhelmed with things. Keep it simple. If that means like I keep sticks of meat in the fridge all the time and cheese, right? Like, setting yourself up so you have these really quick, easy grab things is actually very supportive. And then you're ensuring that you do get certain things and nutrients that you need.
And I think one thing I really appreciated that Colin hit on when it comes to diet, because I think we like to be like, tell me the best yogurt to buy.
Right.
And he's like, no, just go buy Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard when you're standing there comparing labels and you're like, well, is this one better than this one? Well, this one has 15 grams and that one has 17 grams. Ooh, but the sugar on that one. It's like, start with like baby steps, which is if you like meat, cook up some chicken breast that you are like, I can eat this all week. Yeah, you might be sick of chicken breast by the end of the week, but that's okay. Like that's like a simple thing to start with.
Yeah.
Instead of going out and trying to revamp your entire diet in one step, right? So
Well, and I think I've started to even plan ahead because we all know that's who I am. Lays out her clothes the night before, lays out her meals
I did my
the
makeup.
night before. Did you?
I laid out all my stuff last night, like all my skincare and all the
for
makeup
you.
I was going to
Nice.
use. But then I like opened my makeup drawer and I was like, where's all my makeup?
Like, oh yeah, I'm so
Told
prepared.
you.
Like, I'm so prepared.
I love it.
That I thought that someone threw it all out.
I like looked at Beatrice. I was like,
What did you do?
where's my stuff? She's like,
Right there.
Mommy, you made it pretty and
so
organized.
funny.
Oh my
I know.
gosh.
Anyway, sorry.
So
I
funny.
But I find with like protein, sometimes you have to think ahead a little bit because you'll be like, oh, my meat's in the freezer frozen. And you're like, well, I have to de-thaw it and then blah, blah, whatever. And so I found trying to think like a day ahead and being like, do I have a meat either cooked or de-thawing in the fridge?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Really helps me to be like, okay, this is how I'm going to incorporate it the next day.
Now you're setting yourself up.
Do you want to know? Well, we're talking a lot about protein right now.
I thought you were going to say we're talking a lot about meat
We're
sticks.
talking a lot about meat sticks, guys. No, but 2 tips. Number 1, I have like a super good chicken marinade that is so good. And it like is so good cold. And it's my go-to because it's delicious on its own. So if you're in a phase like me and you're like, I just literally need to grab like chicken and I don't want to deal with anything else, that's what you need. But pro tip, if you want some easy protein meals, Costco has like the kebabs, like the pork and the chicken, and they thaw so fast and you can like cook them in your oven or in an air fryer in like 15 minutes.
Love that.
Yeah, and it's on a stick literally. So you're just like, take this.
All forms of meat sticks,
There
guys.
we go.
We got you covered.
Costco is a lifesaver for quick and easy.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, and
absolutely.
they're already marinated. Like
Yeah.
I buy them all the time and then make them and have them on hand at home for me.
Yeah.
And
like,
for Nick while he works right now, the
Yeah.
way he's working, he'll like have one in his lap. Right?
pro tip,
Anyways.
ease. Put, what makes things easier for you
Yes.
in order to get you where you want to go. Don't overcomplicate it. We don't have to do all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious on if you've made any other shifts in your life or any like micro habits, anything. And I know this is a thing for CJ, maybe more about habits, but look, we're talking about it now. That has helped your anxiety like lately, both of you. Obviously.
CJ has a notebook. I just have 3 notes in my phone. So
great.
should I go first?
Yeah. I'll feed off of you.
Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to look at my phone here for a second. So I talked about starting the day with decaf, my athletic greens, and my electrolytes. And so then I also have added more supplements into my day.
Okay, tell me.
So I've got an adrenal tonic by Symbiotica. These are all Symbiotica, actually. little bit of a problem. I know. But I like ease.
Shervine.
You know, this is an example of spending more money maybe to just have the ease and the impact. And so I do the adrenal super tonic when I take my anxiety medication in the morning, because I have spoken about that. I'm on medication. I'm still on medication. Sometimes the dosage goes up and down depending on what I need, but I'm on a really great dose right now. So I do that together so that I remember. And then I take a vitamin D, a vitamin C, and a magnesium. And I found a really big difference since adding those into just how I'm feeling energy-wise, which then impacts my anxiety. Because if I'm feeling tired and overwhelmed, the anxiety starts to creep in a little bit more too. I've increased my protein. Again, I don't drink alcohol. And then I bookend my day with gratitude. So in the mornings, I write in my gratitude journal. In the evenings, right before I go to bed, I write in my gratitude journal. I've done that for quite a long time. That's a habit, probably the first habit that I started. And I'm really proud of myself when I finish a book and I get to start a new one. Because I'm like, I just did 6 months, didn't miss a day. Nope. If you miss a day, that's totally fine. But that's my little non-negotiable.
It's your commitment to yourself.
It's my commitment to myself. And then, I just find that really impactful. I do gratitude with Asher every night before bed as well, trying to get him on that with affirmations, which then help me too. It's funny how you pull affirmations for your kids and you're like, I really needed to hear that one today too. And then it's just, sparks conversations. And then meditation. So I have been on and off with meditation for years. And then when we had Miss Marie Barker in studio, she shared this really amazing statistic about a study that Harvard did on people who meditated for 5 minutes a day for 21 days and that they actually grew more gray matter in their brain. And I think we all went, whoa. And one of my girlfriends who listened to that episode went, whoa, and texted me and was like, are you doing this 21-day meditation? Let's do it together. So I have an accountability partner and we just send each other little check marks every day when we meditate. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. I just make sure that I do 5 minutes a day. And sometimes that's in the morning. Sometimes it's when I get to work. Sometimes it's at night. But right now, because I'm actually in a season of quite heavy anxiety the last couple of weeks. So it's fitting that we're talking about this. I've started to bookend my day, not just with gratitude, but with meditation as well. And really finding myself regulating a lot better that way. So those are kind of my main ones that I've been focusing on.
You went through them so fast. I was like, I want to talk about all of them. And I was like, I'm not going to interrupt her. I'm going to let her get through all of them. I think the thing I have written at the top of my notebook is emotional regulation. And I feel like that's like everything we're talking about today is talking about how to regulate your body and your emotions, right? And your parasympathetic nervous system, right? And so I think, when we're hitting on diet, when we're hitting on like protein intake, when we're hitting on sleep and like water and like exercise and all of these things, I think it's so important to remember that the foundational steps, in my opinion, start with regulating ourselves. Yeah. And so if you can work on some of those building blocks that really are foundational, they can make such a difference. Yeah. Right? 100%. You touched on so many things that I wanted to talk about, but I'm like, they kind of like veer off. Well, one I thought about which is interesting that I wanted to touch on, that's not an update, but I think for anyone listening, if they're like trying anxiety medication or like getting into anxiety medication, they're like, okay, like I heard Megan takes her anxiety medication in the morning. I should take mine in the morning.
Oh yeah.
No. I don't think that that's what you were saying. I just was like, oh, this is such an interesting topic, because I think both of us have tried a gamut of different, drugs and things. And obviously you need to do this like with a doctor. We would always recommend. Yeah. But I take mine at night because it makes me like a little bit more drowsy. Okay. For some reason, if that makes sense. And so the only thing I wanted to touch on was, if people are listening, I would encourage them, with your doctor's help, to try different times a day, because different medications act differently in different people, and also different times a day act different in different people. And you have to find what's right. Yeah. Right?
I think we don't consider that necessarily, like things might be better in the evening versus the morning.
Yes.
Yeah. But I love that you spoke on like the foundation is regulating emotionally. And I think, all of the things that we do to support ourselves are tools in doing that. but recognizing I'm dysregulated is probably the number one thing.
Yeah.
Right? Or overstimulation for me dysregulates me.
Correct.
Right? So
Same.
two things at once, and just even voicing that or recognizing it, saying it out loud to yourself or to your partner or to a friend or whatever is just like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. I know I have things that I can do here. So what do I need to do here? And then going into those tools and those, habits and...
No, I totally agree. I also heard something really interesting, and in no way do I want to contradict what you're saying because I do meditation as well and I find it so helpful. But I heard something recently and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And it was a doctor, I think it was Dr. Russell Kennedy, and he was talking about anxiety and saying that oftentimes, anxiety and worry go hand in hand.
Yes.
Right? And so oftentimes anxiety stems from something in your childhood. Because as children, when we're exposed to either what we perceive as like a traumatic event or something that's going on, a lot of times we're not able to actually escape the situation or to do anything about the situation. And so the only place that we can go as children is often into our minds.
Yes.
Right? And so we go crawl up into our minds, and oftentimes that leads to worry. And so we start this perpetual cycle, which tends to lead into addiction, technically, to worry. We get addicted to worry, right? And then as adults, we sometimes have to go back and do some of that inner child work and realize that, okay, what served me when I was a child and the only like skill or thing that I could do was worry. Now as an adult, I actually can physically do something.
Yes.
And I don't worry doesn't have to serve me in the same way anymore. Right. And you can sort of tell your inner child, tell your inner self, you don't have to worry. You can actually walk away from this situation now, or you can actually do this thing now.
Yeah.
So on that tangent, he was talking about sometimes when people first get diagnosed with anxiety, they're told to do meditation, but meditation puts you up into your mind. And so sometimes for some people, when they start to do meditation, they just get on this worry track.
Yes, 100%. I can see that.
Yeah. And can't get off of it. And so he was basically suggesting maybe that not be one of your first tools if you're just newly into figuring out your anxiety or understanding your relationship with worry and your mind, so that if you start to meditate and you're like, all these people have anxiety and they're meditating and it's so great and so phenomenal and it's horrible for me.
Yeah.
Maybe being able to understand why
Yeah.
that could be hard for you in the beginning, and definitely something that you can overcome.
That's so interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was very interesting.
Did he have suggestions on what people should do?
Yeah, emotional regulation.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you want, I can link it, but you should go listen to the podcast. It was Liz Moody's podcast with Dr. Russell Kennedy, and it was on anxiety, and it was very, very interesting. I listened to a lot of them, a lot of episodes on anxiety and mental health, and not a lot of them bring up new things for me. And this one actually really did. So I would highly.
Sweet. Yes. Let's link that. I want to listen to it.
Yeah. Recommend that. So I think for me, the biggest things are things that are going to regulate my emotion, my nervous system, as we've sort of said.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Erica. You guys know I love a quality handbag, and I recently found a luxury resale company that I have to share with you. Working Girls Boutique offers a stunning selection of gently loved luxury handbags and a safe, reliable, and secure way to purchase your dream bag. They have a strong commitment to authenticity and choose carefully curated pieces in excellent condition, which include Prada, YSL, Louis Vuitton, and they have a stunning Chanel collection, which is 100% on my dream list. One thing I love about Working Girls Boutique is how seriously they take making sure each piece is authentic. Ensuring authenticity of luxury items is a serious business, and Working Girls Boutique prides themselves on thoroughly checking every item they choose to the highest degree. They even use AI technology so you can feel super secure about the bags you are investing in. Working Girls Boutique also offers a flexible payment plan so you can secure your dream bag without breaking the bank. Plus, they gave us an exclusive discount code for the Her community, which is amazing. It's code HER50 to save $50 off your purchase. If you're like me and constantly looking for that next dream bag to add to your closet, you can find all the details on the newest designer editions on their Instagram at Working Girls Boutique, and head to their website, wgboutique.com, to secure your dream bag. Don't forget to use the code HER50 for $50 off your purchase, and 100% make sure to tag me because I want to see what bag you snagged.
I've really started to try and incorporate like stress reducing practices. And so identifying that like stress is a big trigger for me of like starting to get anxious and like go down that spiral, right? And so being like, okay, you know, you can like feel it like welling up in you.
Yes.
You know, your palms start to get sweaty, or you start to like clench your jaw, or you can like feel it in your chest or in your gut, you know, and you stop breathing and it's like very shallow or whatever's going on. Your head starts spinning. You're feeling a bit nauseous. Starting to identify, okay, what are the stresses that I have in my life? And what are some things that I can pull back from? Right? And be like, okay, this is a stressor that doesn't actually need to be there. Or after you go through a stressful situation, how can you close that loop? So
Hit me.
Okay. I'm like really excited. I'm really excited. Okay. So this was, I always want to give credit to where I found this. This was actually from Ashley Breland. Shout out. She was on the podcast. Amazing. Boundaries counselor, phenomenal. Need to follow her. She's amazing. Listen to her episode if you haven't already. But she was talking about completing the stress cycle. And I was like, what is a completing the stress cycle? And she's like, oh, it's actually like this thing that has been brought forth by, it's Emily and Amelia. I'm going to butcher their last name. Nagoski?
I think that sounded good.
Yeah, they have a book on burnout, basically, which I have not read, but looks really good. And they also have a really great, again, like if you guys are into education and information, podcast with Brene Brown that they did, where they really explain all of this stuff. But basically, I'm going to read a little snippet.
Okay.
So basically, when we have a stressful situation, when you remove the stressor, it doesn't mean that the stress cycle is complete. So your body speaks body language. It doesn't know that you've finished a stressful day when the stress is actually done. So it's like you have this stressful conversation and your body's not just all of a sudden like, oh, light bulb, great, the stress is done, like move on. Like we don't need to be like so wound up anymore. And so we have stepped away, I think, in possibly like our digital age from naturally closing the stress loop, as they would call it, or the stress cycle. So there's actually 7 ways to close the stress cycle.
Let's hear it.
This is great because I'm thinking about all my stress cycles that I currently have open. Probably let's close them up.
Yes. Well, and they talk about, and this could feel overwhelming because for me, I think back to like the bajillion things, like you said, that you could have open from like all the way to childhood or from like 3 months ago or whatever. And you have to start small and as things come up. But I think as you identify a stress, you can be like, okay, how am I going to close that loop?
Okay.
Right. How am I gonna, and then another one comes up and you're like, okay, how am I going to close that loop? Right. And just like walking through it as you can. So sort of the 7 ways that they talk about are, number 1 is breathing.
Love. Yeah.
Right. And so breath work will get us out of our bodies.
Yeah.
And, or whatever, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Exercise. Crying actually closes the stress loop and
Then
just like letting it flow.
Closed a big one last week, guys.
Oh, great. Affection.
Yes. Okay.
So affection, positive social interaction,
Yeah.
laughter, and creative expression.
Okay, that's wild because when you were like, there's 7 ways, I'm like, okay, these are tasks that we're going to be able to do. But these are things that you can easily expose yourself to in many different ways.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And I think you can like sort of figure out what works best for you and what works best for you on different days and different, you know what I mean? And it doesn't, hopefully have to feel like a task list, but it's like, I think it was Brene on the episode was talking about the end of her workday. Like she makes sure she walks, right? And I found that so helpful too. Like Ben and I go for a walk every afternoon.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, that's just a way for me to like get out, sort of close a little bit of like workday stress loop, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So there's just different. Yeah.
I'm loving this. And I'm actually thinking about how we got a puppy this summer and we live on an acreage. And when I take him out for a walk, I say, Kate, let's go for a loop. So now I'm physically going to take him for the end of day walk on the loop and close my loops, guys.
There you go.
Look at that analogy.
Oh, that's such a good analogy.
I love that. Closing the stress loop. Okay. great.
But I just like, I was mind blown, right?
Yeah.
To be like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense, right? Like you have a stressor come up and then it's just like in your mind, you're trying to be like, okay, that's done. That's done. But your body is not feeling that it's done. And I can't remember if I said this on the podcast. But one day, I think I can say this, my mom and I were talking one day and she had a little bit of a nightmare the night before. And she was like, yeah, like I couldn't fall back to sleep. And she's like, I knew it was over and like, didn't exist. And I'm like, but your body doesn't know that it's over. So in your mind, you're like, that thing wasn't real, but your whole body has perceived that whatever nightmare you've gone through was very real, right? And so you can't just flick it off. Like you have to, now I understand with this terminology, sort of close that loop to be like, okay, that to actually finish that stress in your body.
And now I'm thinking about how when my child has a nightmare, he comes to me for affection.
Yeah.
That's like an innate thing. Isn't that interesting?
Well, and I think it's interesting that these 7 things I feel like are innate, if that makes sense.
Yes, I think they would be.
Very natural.
Right? And that's why I think, in the digital age, we've probably lost some of them because we're just going to our phones for like a hit of dopamine or, we're disconnecting from people and not getting that laughter. Well, maybe TikTok videos are giving us laughter. Maybe we can find it in the digital. You know what I mean? But I'm like, there's just, I think we've stepped back from some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really impactful.
Yeah. So I found that really helpful. Stress relieving practices. Okay. Another one that I do, that I find super, super helpful, and I'll do it in the middle of the day, and I often do it before bed, is I put my feet up the wall.
I knew you were going to say that. The old legs up the wall.
Oh man, it helps.
It does help. It really helps to calm your nervous system,
Louise.
which you would never think of. Like, why would I put my legs up the wall?
It's like doing yoga before bed, but just like for 3 minutes and way faster, and you just like lay there and I just chit chat with my hubby. And he'll be like, shut up, can we go to bed? And I'm like,
but it's wild how something like Erica said, like innate things and like little things that you wouldn't think of. Like, okay, you have 3 minutes before bed to put your legs up a wall.
Well, it's kind of like we were just saying actually on the last episode we just had, that culturally and socially we are watching people have like take care of themselves in ways that for some of us are just like, it's not doable. Like I have 4 kids at home, a husband, we're in harvest, thriving businesses. I don't have time for these 7 things to get my morning going. I'm lucky if I get up before my kids, even with an early alarm clock. So I think, yes, I think there's it's so cool to hear when people have these like really beautiful mornings and they're like, this is what I do and this is how I'm successful. But the flip side is, how can we also like learn from that and take some of it and be like, well, this piece is going to work for me and it might only work for like 3 minutes. So I did the 21-day meditation challenge after Marie, and that was great. And I'm doing right now a 21-day, and it's just because this is all I'm capable of doing, but I'm walking every single day. And last night after I finished work, my goal is 30 minutes, maybe more if I have time. And I only had 20 minutes, and I gave myself the grace to be like, no, you still did it. Like, it's good. You still did it. And I think sometimes we like, and I notoriously would view that as a failure, like how my brain works. And so I think if we can get into a place where we're like, if 20 minutes is all you have, that's okay. If 3 minutes is all you have, it's for putting your legs on the wall, like that's actually okay. And it will lead to more down the road.
Well, that 20 minutes is your 100%.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And it wasn't like you were being like, I'm going to like half-ass this. You know what I mean? Like you gave it 100%.
I have 20 minutes. That's what I have. Yep.
Yes.
And I think it's, it will build to more, but I always use the analogy of any time, and fitness is just easy. It's like going to the gym, and it's like, you can't go, if you go and you're like, I'm going to do all these things, you're going to fail probably, because you can't start where someone is, I don't know, whatever.
I know what you're saying. You can't start at somebody's like year 10.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. Right? You can't do that. So if people are listening to this and they're like, oh, okay, it's like, do a leg up the wall tonight for 3 minutes. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do today.
Start with
small habits.
Right? Pop a decaf Keurig again.
Pop that decaf in.
Yeah, it's like actually very, I don't want to say it's very simple, but I'm like, it doesn't have to be overly complicated either.
No. Yes.
No. Right.
Yeah.
No.
Looking at these things with ease.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what can I realistically do? What do I have the capacity to do? I can do 20 minutes today. Great. instead of saying, oh, I can only do 20 minutes, so I'm not going to do it, that's just going to perpetuate and add the stress or whatever. Give yourself the 20 minutes, you know?
I totally agree.
What else have you got on that list?
I feel like we're, you know, it's all kind of like mishmashy, you know?
I love it.
Exercise just really has, you know, and again, whether it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it is. And I don't think that it has to be this huge thing. I think for me, for a long time, I just like, it's not that I'm inactive, but I've just been like, like, you know, I don't know, just my natural like genetic makeup and whatever. I just like haven't felt the need to like exercise a lot. And so I've just really started to realize, like, for Eric and I were talking about longevity this morning.
Yeah.
I was telling her about the book that I'm reading by Dr. Peter Attia right now on longevity, and just how you want to extend your health span compared to necessarily your lifespan, so that if your health span is good, then when you get sick, you actually, and this will sound morbid, but it's fine for me, I guess, is like you'll pass quickly, right? Because people used to live longer and then, or maybe not even longer, actually. They used to live and then they'd get sick and then they'd pass away quite quickly. Whereas now we're having this, you're sick, but now you're sick for 20 or 30 years in pain and having this almost like slow death, right? So how do we extend our health span so that you're healthier longer into your life and not actually in pain or having some of these, you know, long-term diseases and things.
That's interesting.
Chronic diseases that have come out, right? Why did I say that?
So because you were saying exercise and about it, like, so you do a walk every day, which is what you've been doing, right? You said with Ben?
Yes, a walk, but I've started working out in the mornings. And lifting weights.
I know I want to get into that. Right now I'm in the like, okay, I can take the dog for a loop and that's okay. That's going to be the movement for today. And that's okay. And I think for me, allowing yourself that grace piece too, like we've just talked about, really helps me get out of the anxiety loop of like, okay, you know, accepting that I can do this today and that is going to help me a little bit. So I can either do this and help myself a little bit, or I can do nothing and feel worse or feel the same.
Yeah.
And that's making that choice, that active choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I think just whatever amount of time it is, but I think the big studies that are coming out right now for women are protein and weightlifting, right? That are really imperative, that we're not doing enough. And again, I think, you know, if you went back in the world in time, like we were probably just naturally carrying heavier things, right? And having to like do more stuff. Whereas now in our digital age, we're sitting behind little keyboards and they're not very heavy, you know what I mean? And so we're not naturally, you know, getting maybe as much of that, as we would have had. And so we're having to like supplement with that, which I think is really important, as well.
I kind of want to touch on like when you said one of the 7 things was crying.
Yeah.
So, sometimes when I'm feeling anxious, I'm working really hard and actively, and I'm better at it some days than I am at others, of not trying to figure out necessarily where it's coming from, just accepting that that is how I am feeling in my body. And sometimes I will be like, okay, I'm feeling anxious in my stomach. It feels like this, and I'm just having this conversation in my head. And even that sometimes is enough to make it dissipate, and sometimes it isn't. So, you know, I kind of touched on last week, I had a really heavy week of anxiety. Sometimes I get PMDD when I'm getting my period. It gets really bad. Sometimes it's, you know, it's just been like a hefty month of back to school and new routines and lots of changes and all the things, and that can kind of just build up. And when you manage anxiety, I feel like, I'll speak for myself, sometimes I'm really, you know, cautious of it, and I'm planning it out, and then sometimes I think I'm doing great, and then it just smacks me in the face, and I'm like, okay, well, what did I miss? Where did I go wrong? You know, and instead of going back to that, I'm like, okay, this is how I'm feeling right now, so I'm gonna dig out my toolbox. I'm going to try all these things. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And I said to Andrew the other day, I am feeling so anxious, and I could just feel fighting off of an anxiety attack, fighting it for probably 2 days. And I was like, okay, I'm still fighting it. Normally by now, something's given. And I said to him, I don't know why I'm feeling like this, and I'm doing everything I know how to do. I'm doing everything that I know how to do, and it's still here. And he didn't have any answers for me, but he had, you know, a warm hug and a, you know, what do you need right now, and some suggestions. And, you know, I kind of just was like, I just want to go to bed. Went to bed that night, still there the next day. I came home, was a little snippy, ended up taking the dog for a walk, and there it was. It came. I just started sobbing, taking this dog. Was probably like, what's happening? And then
little did you know that stress loop.
That stress loop was what I needed to close. And I literally was on my knees in a field crying and just trying to ground myself at the same time and being like, nobody can see me. Who effing cares? This is clearly what I need right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like I came back a different person because I was like, okay, that buildup was there. So I think what I'm getting at is sometimes you just need to get to a safe space physically and emotionally, right? And maybe have your person there with you, or tell them like, I'm going into this room and you might hear some crying.
Yeah.
But I need to let it out. And sometimes like, don't be afraid to just like let it out. It's screaming to get out of your body. And sometimes you just need to go sit in a field and sob. But allowing yourself to just deeply feel it might be the thing that will get it to pass, I guess is what I'm getting at. So and it's funny because I'm thinking about this like, oh, we're doing an episode on like, but I'm not doing well right now, you know, and I'm doing all of the things. And then it made me reflect that just because you're doing all of the things and you've got a good handle doesn't mean it doesn't rear up sometimes. And then remind you that, there's still work to do and there's still things that, you have to let happen and let move through you.
100%. And I think you touched on the importance of finding where you feel it in your body, which I think a lot of people are very disconnected, from their body, right? And I think you've read it too, or have started, The Body Keeps the Score.
It's on my Audible.
Right? And I'm like, it's like our body is keeping the score of everything that is going on, right? And so I think being able to identify, okay, where am I feeling this physically in my body can be so helpful and so important to just be like, it's not everywhere, you know what I mean? And like place your hand on it and like feel like wherever it is in your body. And like the other thing I found helpful, which you kind of spoke on, was name it to tame it. So really trying to almost like identify, because I think we use the term anxiety, and I know I do, and I've been trying to expand my repertoire of emotional words.
Yes.
Right. And so like Brene Brown's book, like Atlas of the Heart, right? She describes like so many emotions. And so as you start to realize there's actually more language for emotions than we use. So you're like, I'm mad. And it's like, no, like there's actually like a whole gamut of words that fall into sort of that category. And you can actually then more pinpoint and identify where that emotion is coming from, which then can help you identify what situation possibly happened that is like pinpoint, where that really is coming for you. And so I think if you start with the words that you have, absolutely, but trying to sort of name what you have. Because again, I think with anxiety, we use the term anxiety, but sometimes you're excited. Like I have anxiety before podcasting, but I'm anticipating, having a great conversation. Is it going to go well? Like, are we going to, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not so much that I need to be like, I'm anxious about podcasting. It's like, no, there's a bit of like excitement that's there too, that like feeds into that buzz. Right. And if you can sort of identify the difference or how those could correlate and go together, you can sometimes like reduce the pressure, the mental load.
Yeah. And I'll touch on that too, saying like you can actually be two things at once too.
Yes.
And like realizing that like, okay, I'm feeling anxious, but I think that's also excitement, and allowing them to live together. And it can be so uncomfortable. Yep. But I love that you mentioned that, because I think that's really important, that we can get the two confused.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of want to end it then with the question of, because you guys have shared a lot of different tips, and hopefully our listeners have like taken some notes, but if you could name one thing in particular that you use that you've been very surprised by, has been like a good tool that you were like, oh, I heard this and I gave it a try and wow, it's actually really impacted me.
I would like to put on the record that CJ and Erica were right about the decaf coffee, because it has made a great impact on me. And let this be a lesson to just give things a try a little bit sooner.
Always listen to me.
But I think that one for me actually has been, because that actually was the catalyst to creating other little habits that go along with it. So I would say that for sure has been the biggest and easiest impact for me.
I think honestly, when I think about it, I'm trying to sit here of one and I'm like, you know what? I think each of them felt surprising.
Yeah.
Like along the journey in each step, because you like hear things and you read things and you're like, wow, that's not gonna make a difference for me, you know? And then once you actually like feel it in your body and you're like, oh my gosh, like this actually does make a bit of a difference. Like it feels surprising, you know, in that exciting way. And I think you don't anticipate, I think when you've been in something for so long and when there wasn't a lot of talk about anxiety, you know, you just sit there in this feeling and think nothing's going to change, nothing's going to help. So when something does, it really does feel surprising. And so I think new things still surprise me to this day.
And it feels bigger probably than it would to somebody who's maybe just like, oh yeah, I switched to decaf or whatever. Yeah. But I just want to quickly say what you touched on is sit in that feeling. And I think that when we're presented with a new option, there's a natural resistance there because we're so used to feeling a certain way. And this can be with things other than just anxiety. We're so used to feeling the certain way that even if we don't want to feel that way, it's comfortable. So there's that getting over that resistance of being willing to try to feel a different way too.
Yeah. Well, I know this was really good. I appreciated the updates hearing from you guys, and I'm sure our listeners will too. Make sure we'll link all the books and you can like watch for all the tips, right? And we'll share those on our socials, but really appreciate you guys opening up today.
Yay!
Yes,
Thanks, girls.
Thanks for listening.
Go drink some decaf. Bye.
Thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of the Her Podcast. If you want to follow along with us, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at its.her.podcast. We can't wait to see you there.
Bye.
Bye.
Adios.